Good morning, everyone. Today is the Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, January 6th, 2021, via GoToMeeting. At this point, we will ask Dennis to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dennis. Moving on to number 2, are there any visitors that would like to be recognized at this time? Any visitors? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to number 3, which is the approval of the minutes for the December 16th, 2020 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Moving on to number 4, appointments and reappointments. We have a current request for an appointment for Dennis Parker, an unaffiliated, to the Historic District Commission for a term until 6/30/2024. We do have his online application that he submitted. And at this point, we would look for a motion to appoint Dennis to the HDC.
Take that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Okay. A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. I will talk more about this under the chairman's comments, just to give you an update, a little bit more of an update on the HDC. We'll move on now to the Senior Resource Advisory Committee recommendation. So they were on our last meeting giving us an update on what their findings were from their advisory committee. We all then were given the opportunity to review it on our own time so that we could kind of dig in more to what they had brought forth to us. Reading through all this, I would like to bring to the council that we do follow the recommendation of the committee with the hiring of a part-time program director under the supervision and guidance of the town manager. I would like to open discussion for the council members to see if everybody's on board with that, and if so, then we can move forward with that recommendation. So I'll open it up to everyone out there.
I'd like.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'd like to make a motion to approve that, but if there's some discussion beforehand, that's fine.
Yep. Okay. Is there anybody who has any discussion about it? Dennis?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment before we go on. I certainly agree with the position. There's no doubt about it. I just have a little, not a problem, but I don't know about the fact that we should call it a director. It's a part-time position. I don't know if it would cause confusion with the rest of our directors in town who are, I believe, in a directors union of some sort, supervisors union. I myself like the idea, I think Carol brought it up last month, of calling it a program coordinator and having that individual be under the auspices of either Park Rec or Human Services. I think in as much as it's a part-time position at this time, we'll take things rather slowly. Of course, in the future, as the department, I'm sure, will get bigger, and we could certainly entertain the idea of moving it up to a position called director. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Good morning, Christine Guptiel. I would concur with that opinion. While I was first selectman, I did quite a bit of research with some other folks that were on the original senior task force. And a number of towns have gone through the process of changing their charter to allow for better services for seniors. And it allowed a structural change within the municipality similar to moving this position under Human Services. The problem is acknowledging through the Human Services component that seniors are part of our community. And I think ultimately that's what needs to take place. There needs to be some leadership through that department, and or additionally some support throughout the town, integrating programming and communicating back out to the public. And I believe that also aligns closely with how the report concluded that we need better communication and programming distribution.
Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Tim. My comment has to do with the fact that if I read the report correctly, they also suggested that a commission be formed that would be headed by the director, program coordinator, whoever that person might be. And if that's the case, my opinion is it becomes a more important commission in town. And in that situation, I think that program coordinator should report to Carl and not necessarily to Park and Rec or Human Services.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Tim.
I'd like to agree with Tim on that point. I think absolutely, if it's expected to be taken seriously, not to say it wouldn't under any other director, I think that's the approach we have to take. So thank you, Tim.
Can I comment on that, please?
Yep.
Discussion purposes, I don't see why we can't have both eventually, Tim. First of all, I do agree that eventually we should have, for whatever the lack of the proper name, let's just say for now, Seniors Affairs Commission. That commission would definitely have to be either put through charter revision or established by ordinance. And that commission, I certainly see as something that's very necessary to put the importance to the seniors' affairs. But at the same time, Tim, all the boards and commissions in this town, the director of that department is not the director of that commission. The commission is separate from the if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay.
So I see definitely a need for both. I see that we should have a coordinator, and that coordinator can answer to Park Rec, Human Services, or in this case, if you would like, Mr. Kilduff, that certainly is my point. And I do see later, or in the very near future, that we should also establish some sort of a Seniors Affairs Commission and give it some full importance and weight. And of course, as I said, not to be repetitive, that has to go through a proper procedure, either through the charter revision or through creation by ordinance. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so my opinion, as it relates to, and again, the job title, I guess, we can obviously work through the job title. The recommendation that came from the advisory committee was that this individual that we would hire on a part-time basis would be directed towards Carl or the town manager. The reason I agree with that and not putting it to some other department and or any other place within the town is that this is a town-wide sort of job. This is an individual that will be working with seniors throughout the town in many different levels. I would have to put some credence in the fact that this committee did a lot of work and a lot of research to make that recommendation that we put it forth to the town manager. And then that way, this individual is working directly with the town manager and not on, because again, you're putting an individual under Human Resources, you're putting under Park and Rec. Park and Rec, I don't know what kind of, what kind of ability they have in order to direct this individual. You do want this individual to have somebody to fall back on if there's questions or concerns about how they should be proceeding when they're doing their job. And I feel that that's best suited by going through the town manager and not other departments such as Park and Rec or Human Resources. Human Resources obviously has their dynamic that they do there. Park and Rec has their dynamic. My opinion personally is just that I feel that, flowing it through the town manager is the best way to proceed with this. I do agree with the fact that as far as an advisory committee down the road, and again, if there was an advisory committee put forth, it would have to be through ordinance, as Dennis says, and that would be something that we would want the town manager to direct and to put together. So that's my feeling on how we should proceed with this. And again, I understand everybody's opinions. I think we should my opinion is that, we streamline everything, and these are the positions that we put through and work through the town manager, who has the ability to direct that individual on where we would like to go. So that's my opinion on it. Job title to me, is irrelevant. We can actually have Carl put together a job description and bring it back to the town council so that we can review that. And then that gets the ball rolling as far as, making sure that we're doing something immediately now that we have the findings from the committee and working on their recommendations.
This is Christine Dupiel. I have a question for our town manager on structural implementation when it comes to grants. Many of these grants that would apply to senior services also overlap in the area of human services. How do we structurally manage that? That would put the onus on the town manager as opposed to this director of senior services and or the director of human services, and that puts an additional onus on the town manager to manage the grants as well. These types of grants tend to be extremely tedious in terms of reporting, and I see ultimately down the road we're going to have to add additional staff if it's not something the town manager is willing to take on that additional role.
In reading the report, it's pretty clear that the first year of this position is going to be focused on building capacity, getting their legs underneath them, and figuring out what the needs of the community are. That's not necessarily going to be a grant-funded activity at inception. So at least in the early days, I don't see that as any kind of issue to be addressed short-term. Longer term, it's a matter of having to have some degree of coordination between human services and then what will ultimately become the senior services function. I think we're talking about something that's socialization and programming, having that as part of their basket of responsibilities, as opposed to something that is solely a human services function.
Again, we're at the infancy stages of this. This report just came to us. We're starting something. I think right now we need to, everybody knows that there's a concern for senior activities, senior center, whatever we'd like to discuss as it relates to the seniors. But, we need to worry and set something up in place now. And again, infancy stages, and work through the process as we go. And down the road, if things do change, then we do change them. I personally would rather have the town manager involved in those decision-making processes rather than some other department right at this time. That's the way I look at it. Putting together an advisory committee down the road, those are all things that are down the road. We're talking about right now, what we're trying to get everybody on board with is, are we good with hiring a quote-unquote program director or some other job title and moving forward with that under the guidance currently at this point of the town manager? And then giving Carl the ability to put together a job description for that individual. That's where we should be talking about right now and focusing on. Should things change down the road, which I'm certain they will, then we can deal with those issues down the road. We need to get this started and get this going right now.
All right, sir. I'll just put this on the floor and then we can really discuss it. I would make a motion that the town council hire a part-time senior services coordinator who will be under direction of the town manager.
I'll second that.
Is there any other further discussion?
Just one point of clarity. The timing of that hire, you don't have funding in the current year budget for that, so that would have to be something that gets baked into the 21-22 budget process, just so that everyone's clear.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the Senior Advisory Committee for all their hard work in getting this to us.
I'd like to thank them also. They did an excellent job.
Likewise.
All right, now we will move on to number 6, which is the authorization to receive funds from the state of Connecticut for reimbursement on COVID COVID-19 related expenses. We all have the suggested motion, so at this point, I will look for a motion for the town council. The town of Clinton hereby authorizes the receipt of funds from the state of Connecticut Municipal Coronavirus Relief Fund as reimbursement for COVID-19 pandemic related expenditures. Additionally, the town of Clinton is entitled to receive such reimbursement in the amount of $24,553 for expenses incurred March 1st to June 30th, 2020, and $99,987 pro forma for public health and personnel related expenses.
I'll make that motion.
A second. Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Now we're going to go to number 7, authorize and direct the town manager to sign a 6-month lease agreement with the Stanton House, Inc. Basically, we've done this in the past, so it's basically the same thing. We're just extending out a lease for another 6 months. Suggested motion is looking for a motion that the town council of the town of Clinton hereby authorizes and directs the town manager to sign a lease 6-month agreement with the Stanton House, Inc. for land abutting the Pearson School to expire on July 1st, 2021 in the amount of $2,500. Motion to approve.
I'll make it.
Second.
Any other further discussion?
Just a, Christine Lupiel again. Quick question for town manager on the status of the Pearson School and negotiations, and also on the Cypre action.
I think let's just focus on that. That's not related to the Pearson School. This is for the Stanton House lease. So let's just take care of that first. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. You want to talk about that? Maybe you can ask him during his town manager's report. Might be the place to ask for that. Number 8 is the chairman's report. So a couple things. So HDC update. We have put a message out on our town website so that people understand that we are in need of some HDC members. And then obviously we're up to 3 now, still don't have a quorum, so we need to make a push to get the membership there. And then Mary has also, I asked Mary if she could send it out to the heads of the RTC, DTC, and Green Party. So all of those chairs for those parties also have the information that we are looking for membership for the HDC. And hopefully this will kind of rattle some cages and we can get some new membership out there. So just wanted to give everybody an update on that, that we have moved forward with trying to enhance membership for the HDC.
Chris, can I ask you a quick question? I know last week when we spoke to one of the current members, they mentioned that is it permissible for if I'm somewhere and I'm out and about and I see someone who I think would be decent on any of these commissions that I ask them? As
I think you can say to them that, listen, we have an opening on HDC, and just, make them aware of the fact that there are some openings out there.
Okay, I just thought that was part of what we do, so.
Yep, absolutely. All right, anybody else on that? All right, so next, so a lot of the talk now, obviously, that we've gotten a lot of emails through the town council email box is this vaccination process. People are concerned, not concerned, but they're questioning what's going on with it and how it's all going to play out. There are some emails that came to us that were related to the fact that some people are hoping that it remains a voluntary process as far as vaccination goes. Again, just stressing the point that, we're basically following, the guidelines that are set forth by the state as it relates to vaccinations. They have a process in place on who gets the vaccinations and at what time those happen. So basically, that's really all we're going to be doing at this point. It's not really for us to say who can get it, where, when, and how. We're just going to follow, the state guidelines as it relates to that. So if people do ask and talk about that, please just have them aware that the local health district, state of Connecticut, those are the ones that are kind of taking the lead on the vaccination. So that is just sort of an update on that because we have been receiving some information on that. And we did also receive an email that apparently on January 19th at 5:30, there's going to be a lighting ceremony at the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool in Washington, D.C. This is to basically, they're asking to join Washington, D.C. in illuminating buildings and ringing church bells at 5:30. in a national moment of unity and remembrance for some of the people that we've lost during COVID. I just wanted to bring it to the council that we did receive a message if the town would be involved in that. Not sure kind of, what path we take there. Obviously, there's not going to be any in-person ceremonies or anything like that due to the COVID. So, if there's something that we can put in place, maybe we can talk a little bit more about what maybe we can do as a town, because we will have another meeting prior to that 19th. So I just want to make people aware of the fact that we did as a town receive an email requesting if we would be interested in being involved in that.
Chris, Mr. Chairman, I know we don't name names, but I've read over the last week or two that we've also lost a couple more citizens right here in Clinton. So I don't know if we should, along with this national recognition, just recognize the fact that we've lost some citizens in Clinton too, and incorporate that with the national program.
Thank you, Tim. It's a good idea. I mean, again, we can put out a message from the town council on behalf of the town council, mentioning the January 19th date and what they were, looking to do on that. And then also in that incorporating, what we've lost here in town. So that's a good idea. I mean, my feeling would be to maybe just put something out there to the public as a release to the public on an informational basis.
Yeah, just one point to Tim's point. I understand how we've been trying to be so protective of our citizens and all. And I find it ironic that the Hartford Courant printed the names of every individual in the state last Sunday in the paper. And of course, it has listed the 89 individuals from Clinton. And so I know that we've tried so hard, Mr. Chairman, you have, and town manager, to protect the privacy of those individuals. And so I just thought I'd add that, Tim, that with all our efforts, somehow it still gets.
Oh, I didn't know that, Dennis.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to keep, keep information protected sometimes, and unfortunately, that's what happens. I mean, it's their right whether they want that information released. Hopefully, they did the right thing, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and us as a town, I think that's very privileged information. So.
Correct.
All right. Anything else at this point? All right. Let's move on now to then the town manager's report.
You have my submitted written report. A couple items to call to your attention would be the need to make an appointment to the Connecticut Water Company Customer Advisory Council. This is a vacancy where Clinton is not represented, and the water company is reaching out to us looking for an appointment to be the voice of Clinton and the voice of ratepayers at their Customer Advisory Council. So it's got to be an individual appointed by the town council, an individual who is a customer of the water company and cannot be an employee of the water company. So it's a pretty wide open field for where you want to go with that. Because they do have a rate action coming, obviously this would have been something good to have a voice from the town involved in. So that's something to add to your radar for potential appointees, in addition to filling the spots on the Historic District Commission. Also, we put on the town's website, and as a follow-up to an email I sent you earlier, the governor did issue an executive order which reactivated all of the tax collection programs that were in effect for the first installment at the start of the fiscal year. So those now continue forward on for us, the second installment. Quarterly towns, I guess, the first installment was in, the second installment not, the third installment in, and the fourth installment not. So right now that takes us back to the low interest program of 0.25% on delinquencies. If you recall, the decision was that this aided the town in its cash flow, but it also eliminated the need to have an actual program with people filling out paperwork and the rest, which at the time was a concern given the spread of COVID. I guess as a follow-up to some other items, we did put some information on the town's website yesterday and out on Facebook regarding vaccinations. I haven't heard where it's not going to be anything other than voluntary. It's operated under a voluntary setup at this point. But the state is layering out and laddering who should get the vaccines as they come in. The vaccine volume is not coming in as high as originally expected from Operation Warp Speed at the federal level. So the state has what it has. The first round was so-called phase 1A, which was individuals living at a nursing home, individuals working at a nursing home, and first responders. So that would be police, fire, EMS. Those have all been voluntary. If you wanted it, you could have it. If you didn't want it, you didn't have to have it. Obviously, it was being encouraged. The next round, phase 1B, is still in the process of being determined. It's supposed to be decided within the next week or two for who is all going to be included in phase 1B. It's only currently nebulously described as frontline workers. Municipal employees were included in that phase 1B as frontline for CRAD's planning purposes. But others like teachers and people working in grocery stores and the like, the governor has a board that's working on that decision-making process. Vaccinations will be done in coordination with the Connecticut River Area Health District. And once we have information from the state in terms of what is online and who is eligible to be vaccinated, that will then be disseminated so that we can get those individuals vaccinated. Right now, the vaccine clinic is being run in Old Saybrook. So Clinton residents would be directed to go to Old Saybrook if they were interested in getting the vaccine, assuming they fell within one of the eligible criteria. It's still expected that by summer, there would be enough vaccine around for general public inoculation, unless some other vaccine comes online. There's one that's being put together by Johnson & Johnson that has not advanced as quickly. So if other vaccines come online sooner than the summer, then that availability would be made available faster. There's a state website, ct.gov/COVID vaccine, which provides information on vaccinations. And information is out there on who is in phase 1A. And phase 1B, once that's determined, will also be posted to that website. And I guess the Pearson School, as was requested, cypre action will be required. The former town attorney and I did have a conference call with staff from the Attorney General's office. The theory that was being discussed at that point in time was that cypre action would not be required. The AG's office staff said absolutely not. It is required. It's been part of case law for hundreds of years. So that would require some decision-making from the town council in terms of what you wanted to do next steps. And you probably don't want to have that conversation in a public meeting since it's real estate.
Thank you, Carl.
Question for Carl, please. In regards to this person that would represent the town on this water commission, do you have any idea how we would go about finding that person?
No different than how you found out all your other appointees, with the exception that they can't be on private well. They would have to be a water company person.
Carl, you think that they were looking for a town council member?
They are agnostic on that. Now that's certainly something, as long as the town council member is appointed by the other members of the council and is a customer of the water company and not also an employee of the water company, that fits the bill. It's up to the council's decision-making process as to whether you want to put an elected official in there or whether you want to put a member of the public in.
I've seen some very qualified people on the inland wetlands and the WPCC. I wonder if we could ask one of those folks if they'd be interested.
This is primarily about rates, correct? About exploring their rating structure, not about infrastructure, correct?
The rating, the rate case that they currently have filed before PURA is sort of the bigger piece of it.
Okay.
And the higher priority, at least in the short term, they make their own capital plan decisions and in terms of where they want to go and what they have for available resources for infrastructure investments.
Okay. I'm
And
sorry,
then
Eric,
next, tonight,
go ahead.
the next meeting is tonight at 6, correct?
That's their next meeting. It's obviously going to talk about the rate case because that's coming up soon, later this month before Pura. So the intent is to brief the advisory council members on sort of the rationale. You did get some information on that attached to the agenda packet last meeting.
And Carl, can I ask you a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
Today being the first day of the Connecticut General Assembly, and I think we all should wish Christine good luck with that. Do we have any sense of what the governor's budget will be in regards to the ECS grants coming to Clinton, or is it just premature even to ask?
Well, if I pretended to have advanced insight on the governor's budget, I think I would be getting a call from him. At this point, that's up to him to decide, and then he will present something to the General Assembly, and then there'll be a process by which that gets meted out. We do know that the budget, without any intervention, does have a reduction in ECS based on the formula that's currently in place. So even if there is no intervention, we will see a reduction in ECS, whether that was a good year or a bad year for the state. That's the way the formula seems to be trending. So we knew that going into the second year of the biennium last year. So the governor would have to intervene, or the General Assembly would have to intervene to make adjustments to ECS funding. Actually tackling the formula is something that's been raised for decades. I don't think that would be something that would come up and actually be passed in what's going to be a virtual session, since it hasn't really gone very far in prior years during normal sessions.
And then secondly, I spent a good chunk of last night previewing the Office of Legislative Research's 2021 Major Issues Report and trying to find any of these possible bills and proposals that would impact Clinton. Could I ask you, moving forward, if you notice anything coming down that we need to be concerned about, that you would inform the council? I know there's one item here, the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority's Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program, that they are going to take a look at. I'd like to stay abreast on how we can get some of that information out to our local citizens, just for instance.
Yeah, as the legislative session evolves, updates come through CCM, and there's bill tracking that's done by the Council of Governments. So we do get reconnaissance that comes in for what's going on. I didn't read the report, but I do have some familiarity with the EMAP program. I'm not sure where the General Assembly would want to go with that other than recapitalizing it. It was getting tight with funds when I was there, and it is a program that has a certain amount of challenges. I know other legislators in the past have wanted to use those funds to support other programs, and that didn't really jive with the original legislative intent of the leadership at the time for how those dollars should be spent.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Christine Goupil, I just want to thank you very much, Tim. I'm looking forward to the engagement on the state level and on the local level. I just wanted to also let you know that with the ECS, we're going to have to look at the census data that won't be available till February, and then also looking at whether or not Clinton is tipping over into a distressed community and whether that will impact our ECS funding.
Thank you, Christine.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Carl. Move on to number 10, Town Council Committee Liaison Reports. Anyone?
Planning and zoning had a public hearing on Monday night. They looked at to bring effort to the regulations to become more in line with a coastal site plan review. Let me just rephrase that. There was an effort to bring our regulations more in line with the coastal site plan review. Secondly, the regulations committee and the land use staff are attempting to make it easier to create more housing stock within the need, without the need for a special exemption application. Their next regular meeting is next Monday. Inland Wetlands, Mike D'Amato sent the commission a regulation review memo regarding 4.1D, which would impact, I don't know if the council's aware of this, but we have a major beaver concern here that sometimes could make some of these septic systems fail. I'm new in hearing about this, and there's also Kathy King's pursuing all this, and I just want to tell you how impressed I've been with Kathy King's work with both the planning and zoning and inland wetlands. And that's it.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else? Okay. We will now move on to number 11, which is the executive session per Connecticut General Statutes 1-206D, real estate. Motion to go into executive session, invite Carl and Mary.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Out of executive session, and we'll move on to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Thank you again, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.